this would never be an LTL show if we started live with no sound.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good stuff. But anyway, hi everybody. This is the Sunday 617. This is my friend Mark MazzaMedia over here. And because something happens when every single time I restart this computer, it defaults to this like offsetting that has literally nothing to do with StreamYard. And it just throws me a big middle finger. But hi everybody. Feel like I'm a little rusty. Haven't been on air for a little while. I said when we were doing the pre-show that I just, this is like the longest extended break that I feel like I've had in a long time. And I said to Mark, I said, I just kind of feel like we can relax a little bit today. Like everything is good. Karen Reed is not guilty. 100% vindicated of any wrongdoing in Officer John O'Keefe's death. And of course, I feel like there's still a lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a lot to go on. I mean, that's the biggest thing right now. Well, like I said, in terms of relief, I feel absolutely relieved. I think I had to take about a week off from doing any YouTube shows because I just kind of was having that mental decompression about spending, like we have, all of us spend so much time talking about this and then doing whatever it is we've done as individuals and collaboratively to get out there and raise the word for Karen. And it was just so relieving to see her acquitted of all those charges. She'll never serve any prison time for this, which is absolutely fantastic. And the jury got it right. And most importantly, the jury kept it out of the judge's hands where she couldn't declare a hung jury, because I was very concerned about that the day before and even, up to and including, when it all ended. So I was very thankful that this thing kind of ended the way we all wanted it to and had a positive ending, which was Karen Reed's acquittal of all the charges this time. Of the OUI, but at the end of the day, the OUI is nothing more than a probationary thing for about a year. It's a slap on the wrist essentially, and all she has to do is make sure she doesn't get an OUI again, and she'll be fine. But other than that, the serious charges are off the table, and that's what matters. And if there's one OUI, then okay, well, I guess that's the way it goes, and that's fine. But at the same time, a hung jury would have been a worst case scenario again.
It's not ready to go through that again.
No, I was not able. Oh, no. I the night before, anybody that watched my show on my channel the night before, I was like, this thing better not go another year. And it's like, now, if we were grifters, our attitude would have been, well, as much as I'm supporting Karen, I really do hope it goes another year because that way I can make more money off this. But that's not our attitude, right? And a lot of other people's attitudes is not that at all. We're here to support Karen, and that's what it's always been. And the trolls anti-Karen Reed will call all of us grifters, but it's not the truth. We've never been grifters.
We made money. I've never danced around that. I made money doing this. Of course I did. But I also gave back, and I know that you gave back. And I know that everybody else that followed or supported Karen in a righteous way gave back in their only way. And in their way that they deem possible for whatever their means are, donating their time or whatever. I mean, I've been open about that. We're monetized. We're on YouTube. We're monetized across our platforms. But I just felt like if I could do a little bit more, and I have the means to do that, I was able to give back a lot more. I know you did lots of things. You gave back personal money. Right.
I mean, buying popcorn, I've donated a lot to Karen, obviously, but beyond that, I thought like a responsibility, when you're a content creator, I think the responsibility was to host fundraisers and promote raising money for Karen Reed's funds. That our any programming we did was not only to raise awareness, but was to raise funds. And that was what was kind of on my mind and heart the last couple of weeks of trial. Was I was kind of getting really paranoid about the fact that I thought this was going to go to a third trial without fail. And I thought that judge was lining it up for a third trial. And I said, oh my God, if we take the foot off the gas pedal with raising money for Karen, and we just all I was just worried, we were going to get, I was worried I was going to get too confident. I'm like, I better just keep doing fundraisers.
Yeah.
And it's actually weird not doing fundraisers on my show anymore, because now this is kind of come and gone. But it's weird. It's like the show I did it a couple of days ago. It's like there's no fundraiser, there's no keeping.
I'm looking at you right now. I can see it on your face. You seem more relaxed.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like we're actually how we hang out when we hang out.
Yeah.
It's just it's like seriously. This is the most relaxed I've seen Mark in the 2 years that I've known. It's like, wow, like we've come down a lot.
Oh, you bet. Yeah. It was I know last night, Alan Jackson, who we know was on Turtle Boy's show last night, had talked about Karen. And I know I had said it on one of my shows, or a show I was on. I said, if I was her, I'd probably disappear for a while, just because of the whole the whole decompression of it all, just, because like, I mean, as someone, that's been a supporter, first and foremost, and all of us that have been supporters, yeah, like mentally, it's been a lot of unwinding the past 2
Fuck yeah.
weeks. And then, for a lot of us, we're not in this firsthand. We're not Karen. We're
Yeah.
not in this secondhand, which would be her family, her friends. Kind of we're third hand, essentially, where people that didn't know Karen before this and started to learn of what she was going through. And eventually we found out that she was able to get acquitted of all this. But for her, like a lot of us will say, well, we've been following this for 1 year, 2 years. Maybe it's been about 2.5 years. Some people even longer. But for Karen, this has been a reality for 3.5 years. And throughout all of that, she has not been an outside observer. She's been directly in the forefront of all this, where all of it's been centralized around her. She's been through 2 pre-trials, 2 trials. And then a lot of extracurricular stuff, including the appellate court last summer, that's gone on. This has been nonstop for her, and it's been a nightmare for her in terms of having to stave off all these accusations and then also secure the funds. For Karen, this worked out beautifully with more supporters and more support than she could have ever possibly even imagined. And like Nathan said on this show just a couple weeks ago, for a while there, it was a time where it was just the family and friends. And not much funds. And Nick Rocco had stated that when he started or maybe it was Nathan that said it, when the fundraiser was begun, they didn't, I think Nick was saying he'd be happy with $5,000.
Yeah, no, I said you think 500 at first.
500?
Maybe,
yeah.
Or 5,000.
I think it was 5,000.
Maybe the chat can correct me, but it was a very low number.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, it ended up going over $1 million. So this thing worked out far better than anybody could have imagined. And like I said, for Karen, putting ourselves in her shoes, it's just, I think mentally, if I was in her situation, I'd probably take some time away for a while and just to get back to living in a new reality, because she's been so used to defending herself, and also wondering every day, how is this going to end? And even though I'm sure she was always confident she wouldn't be convicted, I'd imagine she was probably concerned to a heightened degree that, how much longer is this going to go to a third trial now? Is that, I'm sure, because David Yannetti and Robert Alessio, who is our subject matter later in the show, had also said that they were prepared for this as well. And I said, I kind of tapped my desk when they said it. I'm like, I'm glad they're saying what I thought, because that's what I thought a lot. So I'll defer back to you, Brian.
No, and if you guys are just popping in, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Today on the Sunday 617, I have my friend Mark MazzaMedia. He's a free Karen Read supporter and did a lot of work to advocate for Karen. Did a lot of shows through the movement. And was a major part here in the state of Massachusetts to her freedom and really setting the record straight and getting straight facts out there, and did a lot of fundraising.
Thank you.
So yeah, absolutely. And just make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I want to get to just a couple of these. We'll get these out of the way. Jen, thank you for becoming a new member. I appreciate that. Hoping for answers. You muted. I know I was muted. I'm sorry. Lori used her member chat. You muted. Everybody's like, you muted. Sunshine, thank you so much for the 1 gifted membership. Appreciate that. She gifted another one, or he gifted another one. I appreciate that. Dina Jam checking in. Look, it's 24-month member. 24-month member here on the LTL Media channel. She says, hi to LTL Daddy and Mazza Daddy.
There we go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So last night we had Alan Jackson came on Aiden's channel for about an hour and a half to hour and 20, hour and a half. And then we had kind of post-trial David Yannetti and Robert Alessio come out and do some of the attorney shows. And I thought that was very eye-opening as to, how they tackled this case, given the evidence. And then you just got kind of, Alan's take on it last night. Has there anything been surprising to you that we found out that wasn't allowed in trial, that we heard through kind of these series of interviews that have gone on? I think to us, I'll be honest with you, I don't find anything too surprising because of all the stuff that we knew. But there were just like little things. And I thought this was a good point that AJ touched on last night. He said, Aiden asked him, how do you feel about Bev keeping out the FBI? Right. And he said, honestly, any other judge in any part of the country, just because of the evidence that's there to support it and the discovery that's there to support it, this would have, under the rule of law, been brought into trial.
Right.
How does that make you feel hearing that?
Right. Definitely it was par for the course in that judge's courtroom. That's always the way that she conducted that courtroom, which was trying to keep any kind of circumstantial evidence or any information that would kind of help plead Karen Reed's, show Karen Reed's innocence to that jury out of it. And that was obviously, for me and many other people, something we're not surprised about. But I liked how Alan Jackson brought that up. He goes, not just in one trial, but another trial. The only thing I do wonder, though, is that even if this was something I kind of was thinking when Alan Jackson and Turtle Boy were talking yesterday, was I wonder if even if there was another Norfolk County judge, was the fix in so much in Norfolk County that even if it was another judge, would they have tried the same thing?
Yeah.
Unless, of course, that judge was selected because of the fact that they thought she would be the most effective gatekeeper.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, knowing her relationships with certain people that are involved in this case, we've heard multiple connections through all of this. We've seen the McAlbert's connection through all of this to all the law enforcement officials that were involved in this. And even Alan himself said last night, what was it, O'Hara? He said, I don't hold anything against him. I think there's certain people and certain officers that are involved in. I'm doing the hand thing today for some reason.
Why not? Do the hand thing. Do the hand thing.
That I think there are certain people that they felt, just did their job.
Yeah.
Barros, one of them.
Yeah.
AJ talked about him and said, look, I'll put everything to rest here.
Yeah.
This is what we did.
Yeah.
I called him. I wanted to see what kind of witness he was. I wanted to see how he carried himself.
Yeah.
I invited him to come out to the hotel where my office is.
Right.
I don't have an office out here. I have an office in LA, but not here. And I got a scope for the guy. How could, how would he be to testify? I want to see how he would be. And that's really the extent of the interview. But I think that they feel that there were some good people. Like you said, O'Hara, I don't hold anything against. I don't hold anything against him. So.
Yeah, some people out there, they may have their variations of how you can trust them or not trust them, or things you can hold against them or not. But Barros was an incredible witness. I thought he was, because he was, number one, he was a cop, and I thought that he was someone that kind of came in outside of the circle of circle of the cover-up or the circle of the frame job that was able to provide a counter perspective to all of us and in front of that jury and really show everybody, well, look, I have a different perspective on this. I see things differently. This is how I see it. And these are things that I notice or have to say. And I think that was a big part of this trial. And I think that not only did, Alan Jackson kind of reiterated this last night on Turtle Boy Live, he also said that, look, this is not only did we prove reasonable doubt, but we actually proved her innocence to the jury, where that jury had been walking away. And juror number 1, who was the former, and that other juror number 11 had both said, we believe that she was innocent. They asked juror number 1, the foreman, about that on national media.
24 people,
24 jurors agree
that
she's not guilty because they didn't acquit. They didn't convict her on counts 1 and 3 in the first trial, and they released her on 4 of the 5 charges in this trial, except for the OUI. Every single time the murder was on that verdict slip, she was acquitted by all 24 jurors agree. And you have anti-Karen Reed out there that still want to fuss about it online and insist to everybody that she's guilty. Well, the thing was that Karen Reed, basically, they couldn't convict Karen Reed when they framed her. They covered up John O'Keefe's murder. They framed her, and they also rigged two trials in a row. Because believe me, if she had an opportunity, that judge, to force a third trial, she was going to do it. It was the defense being, really getting ahead of the curve, because they remembered the lessons learned in the first trial, because I believe to this day that the defense did the job they needed to do to get her acquitted. I almost said that. Not convicted. Trolls, easy on me. Anti-Karen Reed, go easy on me. But no, I get her acquitted on all 3 charges to avoid conviction. And then you got a situation now where these individuals out there want to say, well, she was guilty on this, and that. But I feel that, the 24 jurors agreed because there was not enough information to show that she actually did it. And if there had been enough information to show that she did it, they would have got her on it. And additionally, she probably would have pled guilty at some point, like Koberger did recently. You saw what he did.
I know.
You saw what he did. He pled guilty because why? Because he obviously knew that he did it. But Karen Reed, people asked her, "Are you going to take a plea bargain?" No, there's no need to take a plea bargain because I didn't do this. I didn't commit this crime. I didn't commit any of these crimes.
So to let everybody know, and real quick, Julie says, I'm glad Karen was so involved in her case and respected by her team. We heard a lot about that from Alan Jackson last night, of how involved she was. the theory and the thought was,
Yeah.
let's get Karen behind bars so she can't be so in tune with her defense team. And it makes 100% sense now, knowing everything that went on in the last two trials, that Hank Brennan wanted to put Karen Reed behind bars because the information would not flow as much. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Alan said something last night that that Hank watched the first trial. He actually openly admitted that he didn't watch the first trial. And I remember a statement by him saying he didn't really pay attention or watch the first trial.
Yeah.
And I think that, I get it. He's got a job to do. He's got a job to do. But Alan Jackson scolded him and Alan Lally and the assistant. And I can't think of her name.
Liza Little?
No. Prosecution team.
Oh, Lori McLaughlin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And he said, look, no, this is not a job. It's morals.
Yeah.
It's morals.
Right.
And Aiden asked Alan last night, do you think that they deep down inside think that Karen Reed was not guilty and they just did this because it's their job? And he goes, if they went into it that way, it's about moral principle, and they went back on their moral principle because the evidence shows that a collision did not happen. It didn't happen. I
think that when it comes down to being a prosecutor, that morality goes out the window. And I think that as a prosecutor, especially prosecutor,
not Alan. Alan said, I took on cases with total morality. He's like, I tried cases with the good intentions of the evidence. And I believe him.
Let me reset my statement. I think as a prosecutor, morality can go out the window. Let's rephrase that. Okay.
Absolutely.
There are some prosecutors that have morality, but there's also prosecutors out there that are doing the bidding of the DA's office. They're doing the bidding of the county and even the state, where they have certain people that go in there. They're basically no different than state police officers that are sent in to cover up a crime, for example, and make sure that this stuff gets taken care of. You also have prosecutors that go to bat for the DA's office.
Yeah.
When they need certain things cleaned up, there's certain people that they go to.
Oh, yeah.
So I've said this before, and Mark Meadows said this before, and Alan Jackson kind of said it too. I think, the three of us and many others are in agreement that Hank Brennan is actually a great prosecutor.
He is.
Hank Brennan, to his credit, basically took on a defense team that had all the facts, all the evidence. He had none of that. He was able to cause a lot of chaos, basically by stirring up as much as he possibly could, which is why he kept having voir dires done constantly for Dr. Mary Russell, the Ocker guys. He was trying to cause as much trouble. Maybe not cause trouble, but essentially extend this thing and milk this thing as much as possible to make it financially as straining on Karen as possible. And again, by trying to get Karen Reed thrown in jail before the trial would have also been to their advantage. The guy is a sleuth, and that's not meant to be negative. It's meant to be a positive statement in terms of the guy. I mean, honestly, he's the kind of guy that had the intelligence in terms of the logistics of it all, of what strategies to use, far more than Adam Lally ever did. And that's why he was effective in that sense. But again, the evidence was not on his side. It was never on his side. But I would say Hank Brennan, to his credit, did as much as he could to try to get it done. But again, all the evidence was on their side. Additionally, like Alan Jackson said on the Howie Carr show, that head-to-head, Alan Jackson could take any prosecutor in the country with his arms tied behind his back, or even any 100 prosecutors. And I absolutely believe that is true. And I definitely think that Alan Jackson outperformed Hank Brennan. Any evidence, anything aside, Alan Jackson had the superior performance in that courtroom. Now, all that aside, I think that, again, the evidence is on Karen Reed's side, and that's where it begins and ends. Because at the end of the day, if the evidence is there, then that's all that matters. But then the problem is you have a judge that I said multiple times on multiple shows, this show, The Young Jerks, my show, probably some other shows.
Yeah.
The judge is the biggest problem, because the judge was playing referee. And there's nothing more frustrating than playing sports when you have an official that's calling fouls on you, is throwing flags constantly and causing trouble and giving you a hard time. So it's not only difficult when you have someone like Hank Brennan that's making this a lot more difficult for this time. You got to fly out the experts more. You got him contesting this, contesting that,
right,
all that stuff. Then you have this judge sitting in this courtroom time after time after time. And Alan Jackson said this on the Howie Carr show. He goes, this judge, I mean, regardless of what she wouldn't allow to be discussed during the trial, is now out there every single day, not allowing the objections to come through from the defense, overruling them constantly. And I forgot what the numbers were, but compared to the prosecution, it was insane the way she was overruling anything Alan Jackson had to object to. And it was constantly going on throughout this trial. And again, well, it is difficult to deal with Hank Brennan and the obstacles that he did present, because someone just said in the comments, Hank sucks, period. And the reason for that kind of comment is, regardless of whether or not you think that Hank Brennan's a quality prosecutor in terms of understanding how the job of being a prosecutor is done, he was in that sense a nail in their side all trial and even in the pretrial, because he was constantly making them take extra steps, go to court more, go do this more, and all that stuff constantly. But then beyond that, you still have the judge being the judge. And to me, when I look at everything that went down in this courtroom this year, it was a bigger, badder sequel. That was a last-ditch effort to try to either get Karen in jail, prison, or get a third trial. And I still think they tried to get a third trial, which is why the defense had to be so strategical about making sure that OUI charge had its own separate listed charge, so the jury could look at that and not say, well, we think she's guilty of OUI, but this OUI is tied to another charge. They gave him that out, that would prevent that jury from being hung. And I think, like Alan Jackson said last night on Turtle Boy, a lot of this goes back to jury selection. I think that the problem with the jury last time is you had a lot of intellectuals. And sometimes the problem with intellectuals is they overthink. And not only that, it appears they tried to solve the case and trying to establish reasonable doubt.
They tried to try their own case.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I know for a fact, and I can talk about it now, that on that first jury, you had a lot of engineers, you had a lot of medical professionals, you had some retired police officers on there. And I think the route that they wanted to go was to look at, let's bring in the professional aspect of this and let's have them analyze the data and see what we got. But I like the fact, and this is not a shot at any of the jurors in trial two, because they got it right and they're amazing people. They went with the community this time. They chose jurors that were in and around this community, and they wanted to hear kind of like the everyday person opinion. They wanted the everyday person opinion on this. And I'm going to tell you, juror one ran that jury phenomenally. He said, we wanted to come in and just put in the work. We wanted to come in and just do the work. And they did. They were in you know, to Aiden's credit last night, saying not one person called out, not one person faltered. There wasn't a day that they couldn't do anything. It was just that one day, I believe, when Karen was ill and needed to get an IV. But other than that, court proceeded as it was supposed to go on. Let's take a break for a second here. We'll do a couple of these super chats that just came in. Again, I want to thank my guest, Mark MazzaMedia, for stopping by the studio today and hanging out. It's been a little while since him and I have caught up. And if you haven't checked him out, please do on YouTube at MazzaMedia. Can check them out there, and on Twitter as well too, or X, what we call it. Jen, thank you so much for the 2. She says Kano had her thumb on the scale. Yeah, absolutely. I believe that. Jason's chiming in with a $20 super chat. Says, thank you for everything, guys. Help keep the movement going. Stronger and stronger. Was an amazing movement for an innocent woman. Now it's Turtle Boy's fight. Let's stay strong. Mazza and Brian, you are great. Thank you so much, Jason. Again, we're going to do everything we can to support Turtle Boy in any way possible. Of course. Lisa's saying Mazza's looking fresh today.
There we go.
The fire sign in the hot. Look at that.
There we go.
Look at that.
I cut the hair before I came out here today.
I love it. I love it. So I mean, just going back and listening to Alan's interview with Aiden last night, you know, obviously in talking about adrenaline and us kind of all coming down, you know, he explained, you know, that's kind of the thing that Karen is going through now. You got to think your life has been on heightened alert for 4 years. You've been depleted of all your resources. You have multiple law enforcement agencies that are continuing to attack you. You now have to go in and sit in 2 trials with a state that is dead set in putting you against, putting you up, putting you in jail behind bars for the rest of your life. Your life is just so crazy and static and now it's like he's just like, well, you know, she's got to come down. I personally thought, and I don't know what your thoughts are, I kind of thought this was going to happen, that she was going to just kind of go away, deservingly so, take some time on her own and spend time with her family and friends. I mean, Be Karen Reed for once, not
Yeah.
the Karen Reed that
Right.
that we saw over the last two and a half years or so.
We celebrated Independence Day
Smash
2 days
me.
ago. That's all right. It happens. We celebrated Independence Day 2 days ago, and I kind of thought to myself, Independence Day, after thinking about the speech that Bill Pullman made in Independence Day, the movie, he's always like, we'll not go quietly into the night. We're going to make it,
We're
and
gonna make it.
that's kind of what Karen did. She didn't go quietly into the night, fought her way through and prevailed in the end. And, really this Independence Day is about as meaningful for Karen as anybody in the country, because she was the last couple of years, 2022, 2023, and 2024. A year ago, I was just thinking about this on the ride in today. I was driving down here last summer to talk about, come down here for shows and talk about the fight for Karen and the whole, world after the first trial. And again, this year, it's kind of probably in her mind or other people's minds, like, wow, this thing didn't go to a third trial. It's all over. And, there was obviously some restlessness that I had heard reported down in the Dedham, outside of the courthouse in Dedham that whole day before she was eventually acquitted. So it's nerve wracking. And I can tell when she was walking out there before that crowd, it was exceptionally overwhelming, as it should be. I'd imagine anybody in that set of circumstances would basically be like, ready to collapse and faint, and excitement and just relief about the whole process of now finding themselves now free. And that's why Independence Day was probably as important. And I'm sure the hot dogs and hamburgers and chicken kebabs and ribs tasted as good for her as anybody on the planet, and for her whole family. It was probably the best Independence Day ever. Just because, again, she's free. She's a free woman on Independence Day. And that's huge. And I think that, now this isn't over, though. The trial is over. The civil stuff's coming up. And I think that what's good for her right now is preparation for movie deals that we heard of, book deals, interviews. And Karen's, it's time for Karen to start, and I'm sure she's way ahead of it, making some money off this. And I don't mean that in a greedy way. I mean that in a way that she deserves it. She deserves to be a millionaire off this stuff.
100%.
And she deserves to have all the funds that she'll ever need to settle any civil suits that are coming her way.
For the trolls.
Yeah, right, there we go.
Right here.
Yeah, exactly.
She should.
She deserves the money. She's, these entities are going to pay her what she deserves for all this. Her book is going to be a bestseller. It's going to be a New York Times bestseller without question. Her movie, if it goes Hollywood, if it's a Hollywood production or maybe a television or a streaming thing, is going to be heavily watched. And any interviews she does with any networks is going to be, very, very lucrative for her.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity for her to make, they asked, is she ever going to go back to work? I don't know if she's ever going to need to.
She's never going to have to.
Yeah, she's never going to have to. But
and whatever she chooses to do with her life, maybe she goes on to set up an organization. I don't know.
Yeah.
She might just go into to just be private for the rest of her life.
Sure.
And deservingly so.
Sure.
And here's the thing that I want to get this point across to, Mark. We just talked about the money and all that, and the trolls will pick this out. Oh, they just want Karen to be rich.
Yeah, I do.
Listen. The thing that I want to just make sure that we don't understand, we forget here, is that John got lost.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
In the sense of this, and someone came at me about it the other day. Well, you guys should do something for John. You guys should set something up. I'm going to tell you right now, we would 1,000%. If there was a foundation or something that we could drive donations to help out, I truly believe we would, if it was going to the right place, because we know what happened with the first donations. A nice deck, a nice addition, but maybe to help the kids, something to help the kids directly. But they don't want us. They don't want our help. They don't want our help. And and that's the point that I had to make to this person. John never got lost in any of this. We would have helped, but they looked in the wrong direction. They wanted to roll with the people inside 34 Fairview. That's the story and the narrative that they felt was the, in their mind, the correct narrative in this, and then got all pulled in to all this bullshit with the people inside 34 Fairview, with all the law enforcement officials that were corrupt and told them false information. And what do? We're going to pin it on the weakest person, who they thought was the weakest person in all this.
Yeah.
One Karen Reed.
Yeah. It's a slippery slope, but I mean, the thing is that, the people that have been supporting John O'Keefe and thinking Karen Reed's guilty have an opportunity to do these things too. None of the blue shirts. I never
saw them out there.
None of the blue shirts were
a couple times, maybe.
Last summer they were out there. They weren't out there this year. They recently were going to have a little event in Dedham
for an hour.
they know showed it
for an hour.
None of them showed
Maybe
up.
an hour,
You know,
1 hour.
so it's it's one of those things. But I mean, justice for John O'Keefe to me is ultimately the people that perpetrated this, which is not Karen Reed.
Yeah.
The individual or individuals all serve time. But unfortunately I think that crime scene was so compromised that even if any individuals were ever brought to justice over it, and that means not through the federal level, there's not a crime scene to really acquit them because it's the same evidence that you can't acquit Karen on. So there's reasonable doubt, and eventually that's it. So really, it all comes down to the feds. If the feds ever step in or not. If the feds step
You need
in,
to.
they could, but it depends on what kind of information they've obtained. If they obtained information on any individuals that have blatantly been involved, and they have you have to have the evidence, from a federal level too. So I don't know, but I'll say this one thing right here. This is what I've always believed, and I believe this in my heart. The most important part about this whole thing is that Karen Reed never went to a prison for a crime she didn't commit.
Right.
We may never know who truly did this, right? We may speculate, right? We may have a lot of theories, right? And one of those theories could be spot on. Others might be partially right or close to right. But the most important part is that Karen Reed didn't go to jail for a crime she didn't commit. These powers that be that cornered her and tried to frame her and tried to pin it on the girl didn't get away with that, because I'll tell you right now, this would be a really dark situation right now if any jury had ever convicted Karen Reed and she was spending her life behind bars over this thing, especially when she didn't do it. So I always felt, if that's the least we get, if the very least we get out of this is that Karen Reed does not serve time behind bars and she is acquitted, and that's like it's like, okay, the people that were behind this, they're gonna walk, and it sucks. I get it, and that's it. But the one thing we had, if we could only get one major victory, this was the one major victory we needed to get, because you couldn't afford to see Karen Reed behind bars. Because I'm telling you right now, if she was acquitted and they walked her out of there in handcuffs, as though you saw the bailiffs, you saw those people circling her, they were going to put John O'Keefe's cuffs on her. They were gonna cuff her, send her out there. And if you thought it was hard to try to get her acquitted through 2 trials, imagine what it was going to be like if they had convicted her
On an appeal.
and then you were going to try to appeal her out of that. Once they get her, it's going to be a really hard
And they
thing.
would have fucking marched her right out.
Oh,
those
they were
front
going.
steps.
Oh, they were
They
going.
would have pulled up the wagon and thrown her right in.
Oh,
right
they
in
were
front of
going.
everybody. They would have been gleaming in that.
Yeah.
Would have been gleaming in that.
Yeah.
Jason, thank you for the 5. So that's the Boston Police Relief Association to start and run a fund for his family and in his name. But where are they? That's an excellent point, Jason.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
It's always interesting when someone disagrees with me in the chat, but what they disagree with is actually something I basically said, which means they inherently agreed with what I said. So I just, I'm not saying anything in factual sense. I always speak in things in probability. So someone disagreed with me, but I don't think you really disagree with me, because what you said kind of was what I said. So I just want to address that person in the chat. I won't say their name. But
Yeah. So, oh gosh, there's so much to unravel here. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, let's talk more about Karen though for a second, about the acquittal. I mean, this was huge for her because, she made a comment, and this was not well received by anti-Karen Reed. They didn't like the fact that she said no one has fought harder for John than her. Well, there was some criticism about that online, and there was someone on the news that did a news media interview and attacked her over that. But here's the thing. Karen Reed's right, because here's the thing. If everybody out there that's involved in saying Karen Reed did it, and then Karen Reed knows she didn't do it, then that means this whole time Karen has not had an opportunity to fight for justice for John when she's been trying to fight to protect herself. Well, a lot of people out there have been saying she's done it, but Karen Reed knows for a fact she didn't commit this murder. So in that sense, if she's the one person that knows for a fact that she didn't do it, and we all believe she didn't do it, and I know she didn't do it, but she knows for a fact because she was firsthand, not secondhand, involved in all of this. She knows she dropped him off. She knows she never hit him, right? She speculated for a while that she didn't hit him, but then more information came out as she learned this to get her to better understand, okay, I didn't accidentally clip him. I didn't do anything.
And she had to, her and her team had to tell this story because they had the odds backed up against them so much. But I do understand her comment, because she had to tell this story through 2 trials to show the public that I am not guilty and there was never a collision with me and John. And to tell that story, and again, I get it. She said, no one fought harder than I did to get this story out and get the truth out there.
Right.
And that she did.
Yeah.
That she did by going through this pain and anguish, put into this situation, being charged with a false crime. And shame on the Commonwealth for putting her through all of this. To botch this investigation. Shame on those police departments that didn't do a better job. Shame on those witnesses for lying and conjuring this story, this story up. Listen, the evidence, the doctoring of the evidence, doctoring it up to make it over amplified and put all, we found out, Alan said, the 231-28 or 231-38, which is sick to think about this after that according to John's phone, he was alive and well after 12:31:38 or 28 seconds, I think it is. That either he or someone was accessing his phone after, and that is the Jen McCabe text message that he was either checking that or someone was checking it for him. That's sick. That's sick.
Yeah, this is a very deep situation. And you saw how far it went from one person. Everyone thinks, oh, a group of people all collaborated to cover it. No, they didn't. It was basically a one-to-one connection where somebody connected to somebody who connected to somebody who connected to somebody who connected to somebody. A lot of people had their hands in this, and they all had a vested interest in making sure they didn't go down for this, which is why they tried so hard to basically force as many trials as possible. But then you also see, it goes back to what happened to Turtle Boy in end of 2023 when he went off to jail. They did everything they could to shut down a journalist that was talking about what was happening. And I think that the big thing that scared a lot of those people out there that were covering this up was that he was revealing information to the public on public forums, through YouTube, through Facebook, through X, and other entities, including his own website, that had information that was extremely factual. And these individuals were trying to curb public opinion, which is why they didn't want free Karen readers curbing public opinion or influencing the jury, which is why we had a buffer zone in the first place. And what they wanted was to basically shut him down. And when they sent him off to jail, I said it right on the internet. I go, this is the very evidence, right? I go, if you ever were a Karen Read supporter that for any moment had ever doubted her innocence or was not absolutely fully sure of her innocence, or if you had been a fence rider about a frame job on Karen Read and a cover-up of John O'Keefe's murder, the second they rode Turtle Boy off in that van in Dedham, in cuffs, the way they did, and they put him in jail for 60 days, that was the absolute verification that a cover-up and a frame job was going on. Because for the first time ever, you had a journalist, and not just a journalist, an American citizen with a freedom of speech, with constitutional rights, hauled off to jail because they were trying to do anything they could to shut him down over what he was saying online. Because they were, that's why they wanted, when they went to his house in October, this is why they wanted his phones. This is why they wanted his computers, because they knew that the information that was getting out there, either it was coming from whomever, but that information was very accurate, and they wanted to shut this thing down quickly. But I think the problem is I think there were already too many Turtle Boy supporters and too many Karen Read supporters at that time that were already publicizing and talking about this stuff all over the internet, to the point where it was too little too late to try to shut everybody up. And all they got out of it was they put Turtle Boy in jail for 60 days. And they still got outstanding charges against him right now. They're trying to get him on, and we all pray and hope that that will not happen, and he'll be able to walk. But this was, when, like I said, what happened to Turtle Boy was unprecedented. This was unprecedented, and what happened to Karen Read prior to that was unprecedented. And if for a moment, objectively speaking, well, not objectively speaking, let's look at it alternatively. Let's just say for a moment that Karen Read had done what the Commonwealth had said, that their theory was 100% accurate. Karen was wrong. We were all wrong, right? Well, do you think that if Turtle Boy was saying what he was saying in all those social media outlets, that they would have ever bothered to throw him behind bars? There would be no reason to throw him behind bars, because it would just be like people that make up random things that has no truth to it, and they would have never put him behind bars. So the very fact that they did put him behind bars is basically like telling everybody in plain sight, look at the power we have. Look what we can do. Look how we can silence people and shut people up. And all they did before the public was basically admit that they had the power to shut somebody up.
Well, just to
or
Alan,
try to shut,
yeah,
because they didn't really shut him up, but I mean,
and just
or
to,
try to.
and just to Alan Jackson's credit,
Yeah.
last night he
Yeah.
said the only reason they put you
Yeah.
on that witness list,
Right.
is they wanted you out of the courtroom. He's
Right.
like, I know that, and you
Right.
fucking know that,
Right.
So
Again, to limit him, and that's what they've tried to do. And I, like I said, I tried to correct myself, but yeah, they never did shut up Aiden, because he was still able to get his blogs, articles going through his online website while he was still in jail through the Securus app. But he, they again, if Karen Reed is as guilty as they say,
which
and
she's not,
and Turtle Boy is wrong,
right?
then why would
Which
you?
he wasn't.
Why would you try to stop Turtle Boy so much? Why would you care?
Yeah.
It's like Tom Cruise said, and Colonel Nathan Jessup and A Few Good Men. If Private Santiago is being transferred off that base, he would have packed everything, but he didn't pack a thing.
Didn't make a phone call.
Didn't make a phone call.
Didn't call one of his buddies to say, "Hey,
Didn't
could you
do
pick
anything.
me up at the airport?"
Didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything
because he wasn't being. It just came. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
It didn't make logistical sense.
Didn't make a phone call.
packed
And
the
everything
thing.
was neatly in his footlocker.
Right, exactly. And if that's the case, then why is Turtle Boy such a threat? Turtle Boy would not be a threat if he didn't have facts.
Yeah.
If he didn't have actual information that he had gotten and presented to the public, they would have never done that. And if Turtle Boy wasn't right about these facts that he had revealed, then Karen Reed would have been guilty, because they would have never paid it any mind. But because she was innocent, and because Turtle Boy was right, look what they tried to do. Even when they couldn't get an acquittal in the first trial, or conviction in the first trial, they looked at that, confused the verdict slip, declared a mistrial, got the jury out the door. Even when they took it to the appellate court in Boston, they wouldn't even open the thing back up. They tried everything they could to convict Karen Reed, everything they could to keep this perception going that Karen Reed was as guilty as the Commonwealth said in their own theory, and none of it worked.
Yeah. Let's pause for a break real quick. Let me just do this. I want to thank everybody for coming in. This is the second episode of the Sunday 617, where we talk about local issues that are going on here in the state of Massachusetts. Obviously, we're talking about some post-trial Karen Reed. Mark MazzaMedia joining me here live in the studio today. He was a big supporter of Karen Reed. He has his own YouTube channel. You can check him out at MazzaMedia on YouTube, and on X as well at MazzaMedia. I want to get to this chat, and I also want to talk about a little bit about the public perception of how different this would have been for Karen if there wasn't the Free Karen Reed movement, if there wasn't a Turtle Boy, if there wasn't the creators like myself and yourself and all the other amazing people that got behind this and pushed this movement, how different it would be for her. But Pokey, $5 checking in saying, will the kids get scholarships due to them being children of a police officer, or is just only that they're unalived in the line of duty? Honestly, Pokey, I don't know. I know Nan Gallagher here is in the chat. That might be something that she could answer per being a lawyer, but I don't know how that works. I don't know. I'm
sure something will probably be done for those kids to help them out. And I heard earlier Karen Reed has those kids in a trust, I believe, as well. So
yes,
someone at some point will probably create a fund and help them out, which would be fantastic for those kids.
Yeah, no, I agree as well too. So let's talk about the basically the public perception, or just the public support for Karen Reed. You know, I've told this story many of times. The first time that I ever got to go in and sit in court, which the photo's right there. And a wonderful photo, by the way. And I don't know who took that. I think maybe who took that photo? I think Kelly Reed. Kelly Reed took that photo.
Nice.
And I think Kelly Reed took that photo. But I remember Alan Jackson saying, it was with Will the Glairer. We got to sit in court on the same day, which is ironic because I sat in on a Wednesday during the first trial, and I sat in on a Wednesday during the retrial, which was weird that happened. But anyway, Alan Jackson came over and said to us, look, you know, we really appreciate everything that you have been doing as far as the content creators and all the people in the Free Karen Reed movement that have come out and supported Karen, because this would be a completely different trial for Karen. I think in the sense that I can take away from that is publicly, morale, that morale support. You know, you're up against a state and a commonwealth that literally wants to drive a stake through your proverbial heart. And you have every single odd stacked against you, And for the public to come out and see this for what it is after Aiden's reporting and getting together, the Free Karen Read movement, the fundraising. Nick Rocco starts the fundraising. Then you have another wonderful group of people like me and yourself and all the other creators that jumped in on this. Then you start getting the lawyers now behind it, and retired law enforcement that is saying something's crazy here. So you have this amazing group of people that come in to support.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. If we didn't have that, I think it would be a completely different trial for Karen.
Right. Oh, it would have been. Well, I think too, from not only just the morale standpoint, from the financial standpoint, when we look at like I cited earlier on the show, Nick's original hope was $5,000.
$5,000,
and then millions of dollars pouring in. And what's crazy is just the financial. I mean, you look at Karen's fund. That fund was around probably $500,000 at the end of the last trial. So basically, both times we collectively have brought in, in donations collaboratively as supporters, $500,000 per trial on average, which is an exponential amount of money. And I believe that the total price tag for this was probably about 5 times what we raised, even though she has other means like Venmo and some other ways to get fundraiser money. But this was something that could have been very different financially for her. And I think that this was the biggest word of mouth campaign. This was also the biggest demonstration of what we, the people, working together and standing up for individuals against our government can really do. Not that I'm kind of someone that's all about standing up to the government on a regular basis, but I do think in various circumstances it is necessary, especially when you have someone like Karen Read, who was being railroaded and really placed in a situation for a crime she did not commit. And I think that this is what a true demonstration of power of the people is all about in this country, and really is the fabric of what our country was all about.
There's a fabric of Massachusetts.
Right.
I mean, it happened here, folks.
Right. Lexington and our founding fathers
Concord,
and all that.
The Boston Tea Party. I mean, it's here. It's here, baby.
This is what this was all about. We did, and again, this is what was great about this is that there's a great political divide in our country. There's people that are, Massachusetts, primarily a Democratic
very
state.
blue state.
A lot of Republicans, as well, in the state. And then you have independents, and then you have people that really might have political views but don't have a political party. A lot of alternative viewpoints, whether it's the Green Party or the Libertarian Party or others. You have a lot of people of different backgrounds. I think what was so great about this is we had people putting that aside because we all believed in Karen Read's innocence, and we all wanted to support Karen Read. And financially, that was the biggest thing, is that we had the people, but we also had the people bringing the dollars. And with those dollars, she was able to afford what she was able to do because they were trying to run up costs on her, certainly in the second trial as well.
That is an amazing point that you just made, because I think what I saw here was a collective group of people that might have different ideologies and backgrounds and races and whatever it may be. And views and whatever it may be, everybody from all walks of life came into this movement with just one thing, and that was two things: finding justice for John and freeing Karen Read. And to put all those divides that, like you said, our country is so divided now with just the most minimalistic shit that people argue about, fucking Yankees or Red Sox or Pats or Giants or whatever it may be, or political stuff or race or whatever it fucking may be. Everybody literally put all that shit aside, and we just became one. There was no color barrier. There was no racial political divide, whatever it may be. Everybody just came together, and it was central in one area, and it fucking made it happen.
Exactly.
People from all around the world came here to the state of Massachusetts to show support of Karen. That was fucking awesome.
Huge,
just
man.
seeing that stuff.
Totally huge. That's what's so great about it. It was so well said, Brian. And that's what's so huge about it. It was just an absolute fight for Karen Read's freedom. And everyone was out there. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to be out there when it all came down. But you
were there in spirit, buddy.
That's what everyone told me.
You were there in spirit. You worked very hard.
I know. I was there in spirit. That's one thing I wanted to be, was out there. I was out there the last day of the first year.
I got lucky.
Yeah, I know. I just happened to have the day. I think I asked for a day off, and I got the day off. I was like, all right, I can be out in Dedham. So I got out, and I was there, and then it ended not the way we all hoped. But what's crazy is as many people that were out there at the end of day one, the last day last year, it paled in comparison to the force. You know what it was too? Because that buffer zone was kind of really destroyed. Mark Randazza, of course, Jason Grant, Allison Grant.
I just had them on my show.
Yeah.
I had Jason on
a
my show.
A few others.
Yeah.
That fought that thing. And if that hadn't happened, then that wouldn't
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It would have been silent when she walked out. And that's what they wanted.
Right.
That is truly what they wanted out there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't going to be held back. And I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
I love the fact that so many things have come back around, so much circular things to me of my involvement in all this. And I'm so glad that at that moment when Karen Reed walks out of the court steps and it's like a fucking movie, it looked like if you weren't there to see what I saw, it was like a fucking movie.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that in that very moment, I'm literally next to Tom CPU. Okay. And I got to share a moment with him, which was great because I'll be honest with you, Tommy was the first person that I ever started talking to in the movement or creator space.
Yeah.
He used to leave little comments on my videos. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? This Tom CPU. And he was giving me like little bits of information. And then the first person I ever talked to when I went out in January of 2024, it had just turned the year 24. No, 23. Because it, 20 January?
I think you're thinking 2024.
24.
Yeah.
It was fucking freezing out. It was a pretrial hearing, fucking freezing. And the first person I run into is Tom CPU. And I'm like, you're the guy that's been making comments on my video because I could tell by his little avatar.
Yeah.
And I made that connection with him and now we're friends. But it was so great to stand there next to him and go, we did it, Tommy. We did it. And he goes, isn't it fucking amazing, right? It's amazing, right? And it was just such a good moment to kind of share that with him, that we kind of came back around and to have him beside me. And I'll never forget that moment. And you can actually, if you watch the video, I have it on my channel, you can actually, at the end of that video, you can hear me and Tommy talking on camera. And I said, we did it, Tommy, we did it. And he goes, isn't it amazing? He goes, look at this. It's amazing. And it literally, it was like a movie moment.
Yeah.
It was just incredible.
That's all.
And I'm sorry you couldn't be there, man.
I
mean, but it was incredible. And it doesn't discount anything that you've done, because you've done a lot. And I have to say, thank you, Mohammed, for switching days with me so I could be there. He took my shift for the day. We swapped. Wow. I originally had a Friday off and he had that Wednesday. I said, can we just swap? And he goes, I know how important this is for you. Yeah. I want you to be there.
Yeah.
And it just perfectly lined up that we got the verdict that day.
Awesome.
It was awesome.
That's so awesome.
It was good.
That's great.
It was good.
I'm glad you got to be out there, man.
It was cool. Yeah. It was very cool. And I was out there with Nan. I was out there with Adam Teeper. We spent time together and it was crazy. We all kind of lost each other.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because we were all together and then we all kind of just scattered and lost each other. I think everybody found their place where they wanted to be when this happened. I got up on the stone wall out where the Deeds building was, and I said, I'm just going to sit right here and get the best shot when they walked out. And I was able to be there in that moment. Dina, thank you so much for the $10. She said, God bless the Free Karen Reed movement. I mean, yeah, that's what it's about. But yeah, I got the opportunity to be out there and check out and get a lot of video that day, which was great, and document that kind of last day. I have all that on my channel if anybody's interested in seeing that. I urge everybody to go watch it. You know, it takes you literally through the morning all the way up until the verdict. There's about an hour and 30-minute video that I put together with all that footage. So I urge everybody to go over. Nan says, I lost you, Brian, but thank you for lunch. Yeah, Nan and I went up and had we had pizza at lunch at the Dedham House. Yeah. And I was there earlier with Adam as well too. You know, it was nice just to see a lot of people that I had seen out there from the beginning of it all and touch base with people and to be there in that moment.
I'm sure nobody wanted a third trial more than the Dedham House of Pizza. Yeah. Because they made a lot of money off all the people that went there. Yeah, thousands of people out there.
And their food's phenomenal.
It is. It is.
The best service. They're great people. Yeah. I'm going to support. Go if you're you're down in Court or just in the local area. Dedham House of Pizza. You can't beat their pizza. It's amazing. The service is great. The restaurant is super clean. Yeah, they're just great people. Yeah, they're really great people. I mean, super clean. Listen, I've been in some grungy fucking pizza shops, but theirs is top notch. Their ordering system is phenomenal. You just go up, it's a touch screen, or you can order with a person as well. But to go in and get a couple slices, and they don't skimp on their food. It's good.
That's great.
It is really good. So, yeah, I mean, it's been wild, and you know, I focused. It's crazy, and if you want to touch on this really quick, I'd love to. Koberger, we saw Koberger admit to the murders, the 4 murders of those Idaho college students, and it was so surprising for me because that's really what kind of launched my channel into this kind of genre of you know, public support and I guess I don't like saying this, but true crime, and you know, that was kind of the case, and to see that kind of come back around just post Karen Reed and give my thoughts on that was wild. I mean, it was just beyond me. I thought I was gearing up, getting ready for a trial, was doing some refreshers. I was getting, you know, ready to go full Koberger again. And all of a sudden we get this, you know, he comes out and actually ultimately admits it. And I still think there's a lot to peel back in that. There's definitely some things that I'm going to be doing here on the channel, you know, post Koberger admitting that he did it. I actually just came across a channel the other day, this young lady that does 3D modeling. And she actually put together with all of the case evidence about a 13-minute video of all the 3D model of how, you know, they speculated the murders went down. I'm actually going to be doing a live stream about that. And I've been communicating with her. And I told her, I think you have a big area of opportunity here. I'd love to see your 3D model of how, you know, take the case evidence in the Karen Reed case and show us through a 3D model how impossible it was that John O'Keefe did, you know, there was never a collision with John O'Keefe. So I'm actually going to be talking to her. Hopefully she can put this together.
Wow.
And she's allowed me to use her content. So I'm going to be doing a Koberger stream here pretty soon and showing this 3D model and kind of walking everybody through it. But it's intense knowing more details now, watching that 3D model. And it's like, holy shit. Like there's so much stuff in it that didn't ultimately come out, but a lot of heavily vetted sources added to that 3D model.
Wow.
And it's like, wow, you know, it's crazy. But I'm trying to get her to do a Karen Reed one and show how impossible the Commonwealth's theory was. So we'll see what happens with it. We'll see what happens.
That was a wild case. It seemed to me it was a situation where, you know, I don't know. I always had a drift that he did it, even though I didn't follow it very much.
I knew right away.
Yeah. I kind of had it. I'm like, I don't know. I think this guy did it. And, you know, I think that's kind of going back to kind of like what's said about people that say, you know, you don't truly think Karen Reed's innocent. Well, I do, because I look at everything analytically. You know, some people say out there, like a lot of times when people get called a conspiracy theorist, right? Like I'm a conspiracy theorist when it comes to the JFK assassination.
Or UFOs?
UFOs, I have a difference of opinion on UFOs.
Okay.
I actually believe the opposite of what I believed when I was a teenager and 20-year-old, but I changed my views on it recently, but in the last 10 years. But there's some things I do believe are a conspiracy. There's many other things I want, but sometimes you get typecast as well. If you're a conspiracy theorist on one thing, you must be a conspiracy theorist on everything.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way.
No, being very analytical like I am, you know, I look at the Karen Reed case and I say, do we think she did it? I looked at it from both sides for a while. Early on, I'd listen to some before I realized how that the anti-Karen Reed, you know, weren't going to budge. I was like, well, sometimes they'd present theories. I'd look at it. I'd study it. I'm like, well, no, I think they're wrong. I think she's innocent because, you know, that's what happens when you're learning things, you know, like I was 2.5 years ago. But with Koberger, I'm like, let me just look at this. I don't know. Is there any other suspects? And I think that's what interested me about the Karen Reed cases. It seemed like there were other suspects. With Koberger, it was like you never really heard about any other suspects. It's like, you know, well, someone else may have done it. Could have done it. It was kind of like with the O.J. Simpson case. You never really got that alternative reasoning why somebody else could have done it. With the Karen Reed case, it's like, well, they want to say out there Karen Reed did it, but I'm hearing a lot of alternative reasons why she didn't do it. And I think one of the biggest reasons were the wounds. It looked like a dog attack.
Yeah.
That was really huge. And I think that was probably the biggest reason. Now with O.J. Simpson or Koberger, it's like, well, okay, let's entertain this. If you don't believe that they did it, please provide me some information that would show that someone else could have done this. And I think with both those cases, you don't really see enough information to say, well, there's reason to believe blah, blah, blah. And I think when Alan Jackson spoke in Fall River a couple months ago, we were at that event, he kind of talked about him and Eliza Little's initial reaction to the Karen Reed case. Like, this is crazy. Are you kidding?
He said it last night.
Yeah.
He goes, I see the dog bite. I hear about the case. And he goes, I used my, what do you say? My wonderful, or something to the sense of my wonderful intercom system.
Right.
And I said,
Liza,
can you come in here?
Liza, get over here. Liza,
you're not going to believe this. and she came running in the room, and the rest is history. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, the thing that, in real quick, we'll touch on this again. The thing that's really wild about it too is looking at that 3D model, and I'm going to be doing a live stream about it because it's intense, and the creator of that, she's allowing me to use it on the channel. I've spoken to her, and again, I want her to. I think it would be great, and I said, you have an opportunity here. I'd love to see. Her name's Amber, and I'd love to see her do this. But the thing that's really wild about it is with her 3D modeling, and now getting all the security camera footage that's been released. And she actually did some modeling for a Dateline episode, which is pretty cool. But seeing now her infuse that camera footage of Koberger circling that house, it is fucking haunting. Haunting to see his movements and what he did. And it's a wild case. Again, I hope that people come out and speak. I hope witnesses talk about what happened, because clearly he's probably never going to say anything. But that motherfucker, watching him confess to these crimes, it was almost like he was happy he did it. There was never any remorse in his yes or no's, or yes, I understand, or when he said I'm guilty. There was no remorse in his voice, and it was pretty fucking, it was disgusting and shocking. And I hope that dude gets everything he deserves coming to him. So
and they tried
hopefully some prison justice.
Yeah, and with Karen Reed, they tried to get, say, oh, she said I hit him, or did I hit him? Karen Reed was always reasonable and objective and understanding. Like, I'm sure if Karen at some point had realized maybe I did accidentally hit him and caused all this, she was willing to have that conversation. But when she realized, well, I didn't accidentally clip him, something else happened, that's kind of how she kind of thought it through. But she was reasonable. She thought about it. She thought it through. She was thinking. She was discerning. And when you look at someone like Koberger, who was a lot more cold, I would say cold, not really objective in any way. He just would kind of be like this all the time. He looked like your prototypical serial killer.
Yeah, sociopath.
Yeah, sociopath. Yeah. And then it's not hard to believe that he would just plea out to this. But I'm just shocked though that he was so afraid of getting the death penalty.
Yeah, and it's wild too. Like, and I like this. Becky said he even trimmed his eyebrows. That's just showing. I mean, that's just throwing shade to everybody, because that was like the whole thing of when the witness, one of the roommates, witnessed him come into the house, and she said, his facial feature was these very bushy eyebrows. The motherfucker, on the day that he admits to it, shaves his eyebrows down. Mark, he shaves them down to almost they're non-existent. And I'm telling you, that's throwing shade out there. Like, it was fucking me, and I know it, and I'm gonna do everything to basically just show you that it was fucking wild. It's really wild. And then to come find out after, and I don't know how much you know about it, but basically the thing that nailed him down, and thank God that it got left on that bed, was he left a knife sheath on that bed with some touch DNA on it, and that ultimately ended up nailing him down to this crime. But the crazy thing about it afterwards was, after the crime, later in that day, this fucker goes down. This is how sick he was in and around his neighborhood in Washington, and is trying to find a replacement knife in sheath, because if he was ever questioned, he could say, no, I have the knife and sheath that I bought at Amazon. It's right here. This is how fucking crazy this is. And I'm going to tell you, I think, and for my Koberger watchers out there, I think he purposely went towards the Snake River and went down in that area, and that's probably where your kill and your murder weapon is. He ditched it in the fucking the Snake River that day. I think it's there, but it's wild. That whole case is wild. And it's funny, some of the theories that I had when none of this evidence was even coming out, we were going through this like we were Karen Reed. Well, here's our theory, here's the information. A lot of my theories of what went on inside that house were correct. Like, we thought that one of the roommates may have got attacked when she was out in the kitchen, and come to find out she did. And we had that theory, and we also had a theory, and I was the first channel to put this out there, that two of the surviving roommates were actually texting through the whole thing, and guess what? They were. So no one really put that together, and I thought that was kind of a breakthrough moment of some information that we talked about here on the channel. But it's crazy. It's a wild case. It's tragic. It's very tragic. These four lives are lost. They would have went on to do great things, all beautiful kids. And, these families now have to live with this the rest of their life and not get the full truth, because it didn't come out in court like Karen Reed's case of what happened to Officer John O'Keefe. We now know the truth through 2 trials, and we had the opportunity. One, the family had the opportunity to see what actually happened to John, whether they believe it or not. But the public now has that right to what actually happened to John, and it came out within 2 trials. And again, going back to our point when we started the show today, is that no one fought harder than Karen Reed to get justice for John.
It's true. I mean, you look at all the information that the defense did, you know, the defense and Karen Reed have obtained, you know, and I liked what Alan Jackson talked about Karen last night, her level of intelligence, which was her being, you know, very educated, very naturally intelligent, but also, you know, was able to become a professor in college. She was able to kind of really learn on the fly a lot of the legal information she needed to learn, and was able to kind of be a member of that team just as much as any attorney, and knew how to fight for her own freedom through using her defense team, which I thought was incredible about her ability to do that. But I felt that overall this was pivotal, because you needed to have someone like Karen that could present this information. But not only that, a defense team as well, and her, you know, because I mean, look, Karen was the one that looked up Alan Jackson and Eliza Little, got them on the team, joined up with David Yannetti. They got Robert Alessi on board. It was incredibly fantastic. And they all worked as a super team together to get this done. But on top of that, they were able to get the right experts, Dr. Marie Russell, you know, Rentschler, Wolf, you know, these ARCA people. And I got to say that the ARCA, I always loved ARCA like anybody, but I thought ARCA's performance was far superior in this trial compared to the first one, because they had all that. They didn't. No, they didn't.
They just flew them in, voided them, and go.
Correct. Yeah.
Like, they weren't prepared.
This time they had all the reenactments. I mean, I've always fully believed in Karen Reed's innocence, but somehow 100%. I found a way to be more than 100%, right?
Yeah, we watched the ARCA guys.
Because I saw the ARCA stuff. I'm looking at these reenactments, and you see it in comparison to the prosecution's reenactment there with what's his name from Aperture, and it was an absolute dog and pony show.
Rentschler.
Blue Man Group.
Oh, no, Rentschler.
Welcher.
Thank you.
Dog and pony show with the blue ink and 2 miles an hour. The only thing that shocked me about the ARCA reenactment was I was shocked that the taillight broke. That was the only thing that shocked me, because I had been the biggest proponent of saying the taillight wouldn't have broken, but that was interesting that taillight broke. But what they did prove alternatively was that, to my other point that I often made, there was still no time for that taillight, even if it did shatter, to cause any puncture wounds to the arm. And sure enough, it was proven in that reenactment.
Right. And there would have been injuries, a broken shoulder, a broken arm. They proved all that too.
Right.
As well. If any, seriously, let's logically think about this really quick.
Let's do it.
Let's logically think about this really quick. As to Mark's credit, we saw that taillight actually broke and shatter, but then we see the x-rays that the Commonwealth held on to at the very last minute.
Right.
Because they knew that there weren't any injuries to John as far as muscular or bone, okay? Not even a contusion, you know, just the dog bites.
Right.
They held all that back. I mean, it would be logical. A logical person would say, if that vehicle hit John, and at the force that they're saying, you know, this 6,000-pound vehicle hitting John at 24.2 miles an hour, creating this much pound of pressure and all that, it literally would have ripped his fucking arm out of the socket and tore muscles or ligaments, or you have a dislocated shoulder or a broken arm or a broken wrist. I mean,
bruising and all that. And that was another thing.
Dog bites.
Right. That was another thing we had always argued too, was that there was no bruising around the arm. If you get hit by a vehicle, why wouldn't you bruise? And then you look at, like you said, the damage to the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder. There would have been damage and dislocations and bone shattering all over the place. If the taillight's going to shatter, then who's to say the body wouldn't? That was something I never thought of. And someone had done a reenactment on X that they had presented. I forget her name, but she tagged me.
It
in
wasn't
the video.
Plevin, was it?
No, it was on our side.
Oh, okay. I thought we were gonna see the wine glass.
No,
bending over. And...
No. We had someone on our side that was a Karen Reed supporter that did she did her own reenactment video, and it was like an arm hanging out, and the thing goes out, and you see the breaking points. And that was the first time that was right before the trial that video came out, and that showed us a lot of what could have happened. And I never thought that the arm could basically be shattered or broken at those joint points, elbow, wrist, shoulder, which was completely huge in the argument. Then ARCA goes and does their experiment their own way, and sure enough, that happened. Now, the only thing the prosecution may have been right is that perhaps a pirouette would have taken place in that situation. But again, you have to ask yourself, the taillight's not going to cause puncture wounds. There's no time. There would have been broken bones. There would have been bruising. And none of that adds up. And that's why you have jurors that are out there on television and they're saying, we not only believe in reasonable doubt, we believe that she's factually innocent. And that's the ultimate point here, is that there is factual innocence here. And you have Dr. Mary Russell, who's an expert, that gets up and tells you these are consistent with dog wounds. When you look at the arm, we'll talk about it for the 19th time, but we will. I've always thought teeth marks were here, claw marks were here, claw marks were here. There are longer marks here. There are shorter marks here that look upper and lower. There are longer marks here. Bing, boom, boom. It's a dog just like that. Standard dog attack. That's what it was. Dr. Mary Russell got up there, said it was a dog attack. Couldn't be caused by taillight. The other thing too about the wounds in the arm is that they were pattern wounds, right? They were pattern wounds. Taillight is going to shatter into a lot of different pieces. Not only is there no time, but you're going to have consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency in that. It just does not make a lot of sense. In fact, it makes no sense.
And I mean, you're very heavily into martial arts.
Yeah.
And you know how human bodies react.
Yes.
If there is something jumping at you like an animal, our natural reaction is to do what?
Yeah.
We protect our vital organs.
Yeah. Right.
So that's probably a natural thing that John did. We want to create distance. You know this in martial arts,
Yes.
and you can explain it a little
Yes,
bit probably
absolutely.
better than I can.
Yeah.
You create distance between the threat and you. So what is the first thing that you would do? Throw your arm up.
When people flinch, like someone comes at them, they kind of go like that. They flinch, like that. They kind of go, whoa, I'm going to throw something at you. Oh, you see people flinch all the time. And they almost go into a defensive mechanism because their first instinct is typically to cover their face, shield their face, cover their face. And when you cover your face, your instincts are going to be to your limbs because you want to protect your face. You want to protect your vital organs, and then the arms and the legs are going to become the sacrificial, even though you kind of people instinctually know how to defend themselves, even if they're not formally trained, by simply just doing protection.
Yeah, it's just a natural reaction, I think, of the body.
Right.
It's a reflex reaction.
You get attacked by a dog, and you see those dog takedown videos all the time. The dogs are going right for the damn arm every single time in those videos. There's a takedown, there's a pull down. And if you have, like a weight bench or something in the base room and you get taken down,
crack. There you go.
Right there.
Or in a garage.
Or you hit the garage or something like that. Yeah.
With red paint all over it.
Right. Yeah. We had a nice friendly debate on my chat with the chat on my show Thursday.
Yeah.
And we went through all the videos, and there was a lot of people predominantly thought the basement was where the point of what happened, but there were a lot of people who thought the garage as well. So it's kind of becoming a toss-up debate there. But the ultimate argument is that, I actually, even though I think it happened in the basement wholeheartedly, the garage theory is very strong as well. Additionally, the garage photos that we see from Alan Jackson and the PI Paul are not a full representation of how that garage would have looked, which means that all the stuff was emptied. So you don't know what that looked like or what was in there at the time. Correct. So, but again, a dog takedown, he could be pulled down by his arm, he could be pulled down like this, or whatever. And then that arm, that head's going to go in a direction. It could fall back and hit something. That's where that gash came from. Something like that.
Yeah. We'll get to a couple more points and then we're going to wrap up.
Yeah.
Mark and I are going to go, we're going to go, and Lauren's heading our way up here. We're going to go have a nice meal of food today. I'm going to treat them to a nice steak, and we're going to have a great time today. And I like, and the fact that, Aiden was asking Alan a bunch of questions, and he said, I'm going to reserve and answer that in another forum. This leads me to believe there's going to be probably a book, or definitely a book being written. And I think we're going to see and hear a lot of information, and a lot of new information in that book. And I'm really I'm thirsty for it. So Alan, if you're watching, write that book. You and Karen, get it out there, and let's hear more of that. Let's end on this, Mark. I want to highlight someone I believe that is, I put this post out the other day, that is really an unsung hero in all of this. Someone that didn't create or want a lot of attention to themselves, weren't one of the me people that we've heard a little bit about lately. But I wanted to highlight someone, and I put this post out the other day. And I said, I want to take a moment to recognize one of the unsung heroes of the Free Karen Read movement, and that is Erica Madden. Her unwavering dedication of support for Karen has been nothing short of inspiring. Over the past 2 years, Erica has generously opened her doors of her restaurant, the Star Drive-In in East Taunton, Massachusetts, to host numerous fundraising events. Her commitment to helping Karen in her fight against corruption in the state of Massachusetts has been a lasting impact, and her efforts deserve to be honored and remembered. Please continue to support Erica and the Star Drive-In. She is a rock star and so dedicated to the Star.
That was a great post. I went down there only once before
phenomenal.
Christmas time. Yeah, we were all down there. I had a steak and cheese and onion rings. And Erica, I think that was the one and only time I've met her. But Erica is an awesome woman, and I think one of the things that was so great about her contributions was all those fairs she had. I remember I bought a bunch of stuff at the fair, the craft fairs, which raised money for Karen Reed's funds, and it was nice to have such an ability to have someone with a venue like that could open up the doors. Plenty of places to park, plenty of field there to have craft fairs. Yeah. Oh, it was great. It was a great time at Christmas time to be up there and enjoy that. And the weather was not freezing. It was cool.
It actually wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Yeah. I had my winter jacket on and gloves and hat, but I was good, and it was a great time. And Erica deserves a lot of respect for that. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna give a shout out to another store out of Worcester, Taste Great Cakes.
Yes,
Taste Great Cakes in Worcester. I visited them in 2023 at some point. Erica and her husband, they sold a lot of cakes up there. It actually gave back to a lot of money to Karen Reed's defense fund, and then they actually sold a lot of cakes. They were recently featured, I think, in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, and about their celebration cakes that they're selling now. So that was another business that was able to contribute as well. So it was great. The Star Drive-In, of course, and then of course Taste Great Cakes in Worcester as well, which was both awesome. It was cool. It was really cool. It was one of the great things too. People that had businesses and were able to
just lent their time and their items to raffle off or do some drives and stuff like that to help raise money. So it's really these unsung heroes that I've been highlighting on the 617. We had Jason Grant on last week that was the person that actually started the buffer zone lawsuit and won. And it would have, like I said, been a very different trial for Karen if that didn't happen. Sunshine, thanks for the 5. She says, thank you for another great live. Much love. Before we go, I got to do something really quick. Okay. So hang on.
Perfect. I'll give a quick shout out Boots on the Ground as well. All the people who are at all those weekend standouts all over the state and other parts of the state. I just want to shout out them as well for all the efforts that they did. The folks at Legacy Place, the people down at the Board standouts and many other locations, over overpasses in front of plazas, sidewalks outside of various locations. Great job, guys, and shout out to all the Boots on the Ground.
So I've been meaning to give you something.
I was hoping you wouldn't forget.
I've been meaning to give you something, and I do want to apologize. And one day, soon, I'm gonna redo this because I had to get this on a very quick time constraint. But I'm gonna present this to you. It's a little token of appreciation, and this one is an appreciation award from Mark MazzaMedia. And by far, you are the best guest that has ever been here on this show to support. So I want to give that to you. I appreciate you, man. You're a good dude.
Thank you.
And I have a lot of fun when we hang out. And that's Mark's little award. I'm going to get you I promise. I'm going to get you. I had to do this on a time constraint, but we're going to get him a nice award made. And I appreciate you, brother. Hi, Lauren. You want to come say hi to everybody really quick?
Lauren DC is in the studio. See if this is visible to the.
Say hi to everybody.
Oh, it's visible at all. But
she was driving and chatting on her way up here. We're gonna go out and have a nice meal of food now. So listen, I appreciate everybody. We had a lot of fun. It was such a relaxed stream today to kind of come out and hang out and do this. And we're gonna go get a nice fucking steak right now.
There we go.
At a very good restaurant. My treat, of course, to these two amazing people that have done a lot of work here for LTL. And
thank you.
I am ever so grateful to the both of you, by the way. You in there.
Lauren DC in the house. What's going on?
I am ever so grateful for the both of you. You've been really huge supporters of me and making this channel go and giving your time and dedication.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate this greatly.
Great people to be surrounded in my life.
Thank you.
And so that's gonna wrap up this one. We're gonna get out of here in about 20 minutes. We're gonna go have a beautiful meal and hang out. We'll take some pictures for you all. I'll post them up on Facebook, and I appreciate it. This is the second episode of the Sunday 617. That guy right there is Mark MazzaMedia. You can check him out at MazzaMedia on the YouTubes and on X. Give him a follow. Let's get this fucking channel to 50,000 subscribers. I'm clawing my way here. Let's make it happen. So please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back. I'm taking a little bit of time off right now, but it was nice to jump back in the helm here and host a show and do it in person, because that's why we built this beautiful studio, to have some people come in and hang out and have some conversations, people. But it was wonderful. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate everybody in the chat today. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I love my members. I love my subscribers. Thank you for the support. And we'll be back soon. We're going to get out of here and go have a nice meal of food. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Take care, guys.
Happy Sunday.
Thank you, bro.